Hello, crypto world. Welcome to the Chart Historian. My name is Justin, and on this channel, I delve deep into crypto charts, exploring chart structures, fractals, and patterns. I want to talk about this drop that took place in Bitcoin recently. I'm sure it rattled many investors. It hasn't bothered me, and I don't think it should bother you. I'm going to go back throughout the history of Bitcoin and just show you how this drop is actually a fairly common phenomenon that takes place on the Bitcoin chart at this point. So to do that, I'm actually going to go back to the very, very first structure on the Bitcoin chart. So here we are back at the very beginning of the chart. This is in 2009, and it is this structure right here that is really hard to see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this structure so you have a better visual idea of what it looks like, a better representation of it. So there is a slight move up, a slight move down. It comes to a low, and then it begins its move up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste this structure on today's chart, and we're going to examine the similarities and the differences. Okay, so here we go. So I've basically aligned it with the low of the fractal to the low of today's chart. So this right here, this decline represents this decline over here. And right here, the fractal begins to move up, and so does the chart. As you can see, it does something very similar. It moves up, goes at an angle upwards, and then drops, just like we see in today's chart. It's really interesting that the very, very first structure on the Bitcoin chart has been echoed throughout time and is still influencing, or its legacy is still seen in today's structure. Now, I've talked about this phenomenon in other videos. The original structures that take place on not just this chart, many charts, that structure is the original, and many of the similar structures that happen throughout the chart through time are just copies, renditions of this original structure. So there you have it. The very first structure that ever takes place on the Bitcoin chart is being repeated in 2023 on today's chart. Let's look at a few more just so you can see how normal this is. So the next one I'm going to copy is actually the very next structure. It's just the same thing pretty much. So I'm going to copy and paste this on today's chart, and it looks like this. So it's a little different from the first one. So here is the downward movement, which is akin to this. I have aligned them to where the low on the fractal is the low on today's chart. And as you can see, this move up is repeated in today's chart, even the drop. So once again, there's a flat point before moving up into the bull run. So this giant spike, let's talk about this spike. So this is interesting because this is a phenomenon that takes place as these fractals get copied from the original. They morph, they evolve, and you have deviations, if you will, like this, for instance, that take place on the chart. And they're actually important because this may appear again on another bull run fractal. Although it may not look exactly like this, this introduces something new that can also be repeated through the Bitcoin chart. Let's look at a couple more. So I'm back here at the very beginning, and I just want to show you one that is different. So it's actually the very next one. So you have this move up, comes to a peak, comes crashing down, and then it's back into its bull run, and it goes much higher. This crash takes place in 2010, and the bull run is in 2011. So I'm going to copy and paste this structure on today's chart, and you'll see the difference that exists. So here we go. As you can see, this one is different. It immediately moves up, although there is still a faint echo of a less steep, if you will, part of the move up that the original one, that echoes the original one. So this introduces a whole new concept into the Bitcoin bull runs, that price can move up right after the low. And we will see that echoed again throughout Bitcoin's history. So let's look at another one. So this is where a lot of people use the beginning, if you will, the beginning structure of Bitcoin. I am not going to copy this entire thing. I'll just copy part of it, maybe like this right here, onto today's chart, and we can take a look at it. Okay, so here we are. This is the bounce right here that takes place at the bottom. This denotes the bottom. Now, the reason why I have it here and not here or here is that there are two types of Bitcoin declines. One ends in a bounce, like this one does. However, this one did not go as low as it traditionally does. So usually with this bounce, it drops further. And I've talked about this in other videos. So here is an interesting thing. It skips this move here that we have on today's chart, but it matches with this decline right here. And just as in the original structure, it goes flat and then it starts moving up. So we see that same idea, the flat, this part right here being echoed with modifications on other bull runs. Let's do one more. So this one is a recent one that took place. So the decline was in 2017 and the bull run was 2019-20. So I'm going to copy this part of the structure so it's easier to adjust to today's chart. And that looks like this. So this one moves up right away and drops, and we see that drop here. This one was much more extreme than what we see today. However, it starts moving up. It goes flat a little and then begins to move up. No, I'm going to do one more. I'm going to show you the one that I showed you in my previous video. This one right here, the decline was in 2014 and the recovery was 2015 and onward. So I'm going to copy part of this structure, not the whole thing. So here it is. In my previous video, I used this one and I had it adjusted a little, scooted over this way. As this continued to develop and this drop took place, I realized that this move up represented this whole thing right here. I originally had it over here. So as this structure continued to develop, I realized that it was a bigger fractal at play than what I initially had. But as you can see, it also has that drop, and it also has the flat part before moving up more aggressively in the bull run. So there you have it, folks. That's a sampling of different Bitcoin bull run structures. And as we can see, this decline is, in fact, normal. I would be prepared for some flat movement to take place and then have a more aggressive move up begin after that flat movement. We'll have to see really how it plays out, but that's just what I would, just looking at this, that's what I would be prepared for. It could do something different. We'll have to see. You know, Bitcoin can be a challenging chart to read because it has all these evolutions taking place. It's always morphing, and it's never exactly the same as the previous one, although the ideas are continually repeated, as you can see, as I showed you in this video. Well, folks, I hope you found this video interesting. If you did, it'd be much appreciated if you hit that thumbs up button. You know, the cool thing about this type of technical analysis that I do here, first of all, it's original. I came up with it. It's something I discovered. It gives you the ability to project forward. So using those fractals, I can project forward at what the future is likely to look like. Now, every time a fractal repeats, it's always going to be unique. And that is because the timing, height, and depth are always going to be original. So it can give some room for originality. But for the most part, you see the repetitive themes in these structures. There's some evolving here and there, but there's a fundamental idea in play that continues to play out. This is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. But if you did find this interesting, and if you're not subscribed yet, I recommend hitting that subscribe button. I will continue to follow up on this chart. I'm so glad you caught this video. I hope you catch my next one. Have a great day, and bye for now.